Woo-woo!
Alright, we're live at the beach. It is an absolutely gorgeous day. There's some clouds.
Oh my gosh.
The water is like glass out there, and the tide is receding for about the next half hour or so. And we've got a great window of opportunity to explore the different zones of this intertidal habitat. And we're gonna try to show you as many cool creatures and all of their amazing adaptations as well. So I'm Rachel Easton, behind the camera is
Stina Troyer, rocking and rolling.
We are, oh, I see a lizard. Do you see it?
That I don't.
Okay. You're doing push-ups.
Push-ups.
And the little log next to the big log.
Little log next to the big log. Big log.
And there's a little log next to it.
Yep.
And there's a little lizard doing push-ups on it. And that is a display to any lady lizards who would be in this area. Now, this is cool. I've only ever seen these lizards at the beach, actually.
Hold on, I still don't actually see it.
Oh, okay, here.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, you found it. Okay, so big log. And then right above my finger, there's, you gotta trust me, that's a lizard on that log. We can go closer and try to sneak up on it. We don't usually get to talk about vertebrates that aren't fish. Ooh, I saw another one.
I did, yeah.
So this must be their cool little habitat.
That's one of
I think
those,
these
like,
are
strange April days where it's fairly warm out.
yeah, it's
The
pretty
sun is
toasty.
peeking through the clouds.
All right, hey there, little lizard friend. You gonna show off for us again? So these lizards are pretty territorial, and they will display by doing push-ups. I think this is a western fence lizard, but don't quote me on that. It's been over a decade since I took my herpetology class. But what's cool about these lizards is they have blue, kind of like an eyeshadow blue color on their bellies, and they will flash that to the ladies to say like, hey, look how good I am. They eat insects like most lizards do, so these guys will feed on different flies and things. I'm gonna see how close he'll let me get. You're very cute. I was not prepared to come and talk about lizards, hence the silence. But I can see a couple of other lizards here in the background that are just kind of darting around. They're cold-blooded, so they're coming out in the sunshine to warm up in a nice sunny basking spot, which is just awesome. How close can I get to you?
Does this one that we're looking at have a full tail?
It looks like a regrown tail. Yeah, that's a good observation. So not many vertebrates can do this, but lizards, some species, can regenerate if they lose a limb, either to like a predator or like an accident, if like a rock fell on it or something like that. They can regrow that, which is pretty wild considering their tail is an extension of their spine. That'd be a really neat adaptation that humans could have. All right, little friend, we're gonna leave, yeah? But you're so adorable. I'm gonna hand this back to Stina. Oh, it's super zoomed in. Hold on. Whoa! There's Stina.
I put sunscreen on.
Yeah, that's the most important thing.
Awesome. Well, hello everyone. We are indeed out at Joemma State Park. Rachel's gonna get some lizard pics. There's a nice boat launch here, so we have a gentleman launching a kayak. I just heard a kingfisher in the background. And again, we're going to kind of take you on an exploration of the intertidal zones. So in the summertime, we get our extreme low tides during the day, which is something that happens year round whenever the moon is full or new. We get that maximum change in the water heights. And so we're going to start our beach walk in kind of the splash zone. We're really looking at the top of the beach where all these logs have been pushed up by the water. And the tide comes back in. All this area that you see on the beach gets covered in water. And Rachel has an antler. Excellent. But we can see some evidence that the water height does reach up to kind of this area where we're at. This is a pile of seaweed that we'd call the rack line or strand line, and my goodness,
Look how many little beach hoppers
There are beach hoppers
even
galore.
catch one.
Yeah,
show you.
right in your hand. Perfect. Oh, and it's gone.
They'll be back.
hence the beach hopper name. Notice how boingy these little
They are
little
very
things are.
sand fleas is the other term for them because they can launch like similar to fleas do, I guess.
I like to call them intertidal potato chips.
You can't eat just one, right? What do they
Just
taste like?
one.
You know?
It's salty, I would imagine. With a
little crunchy?
pleasant little crunch. Just kidding, I haven't tried them. But what's kind of cool about these amphipods is their adaptations to survive in this extremely high area on the beach. It's going to be hours before this water returns back to this area. And so they're able to kind of hide in the seaweed, bury down into the gravel or sand, and wade out.
It's pretty moist. I mean, it's wet.
Yeah.
It's wet up here.
But kind of thinking about that potato chip nickname, there's a lot of animals out there that would love to dine on these little amphipods. And so by being able to hide out in this high tide zone, it's a pretty good strategy for, I have X number of hours of not being eaten. So it's a pretty good deal for these little critters.
They're called amphipods because they have two kinds of feet. One seen here as the jumping kind of walking legs, and then they also have the ability to kind of swim using their legs like little paddles.
Yeah, so ampha is kind of different. Or both. And then pods is feet.
Yeah, both feet. Like an amphibian means they live in land and water. Amphibio.
Perfect.
Both living.
Whereas like an isopod is same feet, and so we might see some roly-polies a little bit later on our beach adventure.
Yeah, they like it a little lower.
And they have legs that are all
that's
little
one
walking
kind.
legs.
One kind of leg.
Cool. You can also just see, it's kind of fun to just even look at the rocks on the beach. Get a nice variety.
Oh, and look,
Thanks, glaciers. And even sea glass. Oh, yeah.
piece of sea glass. Sea glass is about the only trash on the beach that I don't necessarily pick up to remove litter. It's glass, and glass is an inert material, which is why we use it in chemistry labs and aquariums and things like that, because it doesn't really cause any harm. There's no chemicals leaching out of it or anything like that. And on the beach, it just kind of shows the erosion process where those sharp cutting edges get broken down. Now, if it is sharp glass, I will take that off the beach because it's a safety hazard, but a little bit of beach glass, we'll leave that there for somebody to find a treasure.
And we'll just kind of put our seaweed pile back. All right, amphipods, thanks for showing us a nice high tide critter. So as we work our way kind of from the top of the beach, a little bit lower. Ooh, this is actually fun. Take a peek in here. I almost hoped that there was, because that would make for an interesting video. We're getting some love from Karen LeComte. Hi, Karen.
All right.
Can't wait to take you and your students digitally to the beach someday. Woo!
Okay, let's go down until we see some signs of life.
Yeah, so as we work our way down the beach, we can think about the adaptations that some animals have to survive when they're left high and dry. And this is a great example, the barnacle.
Barnacles are crab relatives. They're in the arthropod group, the jointed leg animals, although looking at them like this, you don't see any legs whatsoever. And that's because they are all closed up right now as an adaptation to surviving when the tide leaves. So each little volcano, if it's open like this, nobody's home. That barnacle's dead. But if it has these two little kind of trap doors, that's a sure sign that the animal is living there. And they're covering kind of all sides of this rock, which is great. When the tide comes back, they'll need to get a breath of fresh oxygen. They'll need to begin feeding, and so they will open up their little trapdoors and they'll kick out their feet. And you can kind of see there's sort of a barnacle molt right here. Because they are jointed-legged animals, they have to shed their outer skeleton. And barnacles molt really frequently because they need to keep their feet in tip-top condition for capturing plankton. And so barnacle molts is something that you can see occasionally on the beach, which is cool.
But I'm also noticing there's these
Yeah, can you
tiny
see them? They're
little
so
snails. Those are the checkered periwinkles. Another hard-shelled animal, well adapted for a high intertidal zone life, because they can trap the moisture in that shell with their little trap door called the operculum, and they'll just, again, hang out till the tide comes back in. So, nice...
Compared to other snails, they have a kind of a smaller foot, so they're not going to be losing a lot of moisture through all their surface area. They just close up and sit tight.
Perfect. For those of you tuning in, if you want to let us know where you're watching from and if you have any questions as we go along, we love that interaction while we're digitally taking you on a little beach walk here at Joemma State Park on the Key Peninsula in Washington State.
So as we get lower, now there's a lot more rocks that are covered with barnacles.
Yeah.
So behind us, 10% have barnacles on them, but once we kind of reach this line here,
Barnacle.
pretty soon we start to see rocks covered, and not only covered, but like just entirely filled with barnacles. Different ages that
the ages. I just kind of have the bigger ones and then the smaller. I almost wonder, kind of looks like we have the acorn barnacles for sure, based on that. But these might be the little brown barnacles.
Oh yeah.
So we have a couple different species, and you can tell the species apart by looking at how those two little shells come together. These kind of have that little like notch that looks like a jigsaw puzzle piece, and the other ones are small. So I can't tell if they're they could also just be totally the same, and they're just the new recruits of the season. So new little babies. Oh my gosh, Rachel.
I brought a magnifier. I haven't tried it yet. It's fresh out of the package.
Can we?
Is that better?
It looks like, well...
It's still hard to tell. All right.
Nice try. We've got some friends tuning in from Gig Harbor. Some Joe from Stillicum. And then, you can just notice it just gets more and more barnacly, and there's a new creature to get introduced.
I'm noticing the sand here is wet still, because it's not so far from where the water has traveled, so that kind of adds an extra layer of moisture that helps the animals survive this low tide. And we've got these critters right here. They don't look like much at low tide. No, too much crack. Okay. I tried. But these are aggregating anemones, and they are in the Cnidarian phylum, and they have a bunch of adaptations that help them to survive where they do. So one is they're fairly compact, and they can kind of withdraw all their tentacles in and kind of just sit here as a little ball. When the water is high, they'll extend their tentacles, and each tentacle is lined with stinging cells called nematocysts that shoot a little microscopic harpoon into the skin of whatever animal happens to bump into them. So it could be tiny little planktons, it could be things like those amphipods that we saw earlier. It can even be things as large as like a shore crab, and they will capture them and then eat them. And when food is hard to come by, they actually have a symbiotic relationship with this green algae that lives in their tissue called zooxanthellae. Actually, I think it's a brown algae. Zooxanthellae. I get points for naming it, at least.
Yeah, perfect.
And pronouncing it correctly. It starts with an X. How do you say that? But the zooxanthellae is symbiotic with the anemone. The algae gets a place to live where it's protected and doesn't get eaten. It makes sugar using the photosynthetic process, and it feeds the anemone a little bit of that sugar. And then the waste from the anemone fertilizes the algae. So it's a pretty good deal. They're like little solar panels, a little bit.
Love that.
And then when it comes to reproduction, these anemones have one of the weirdest ways to basically clone themselves. They tear themselves in half. So each anemone has the ability to just rip into two. And when that happens, each half will kind of heal up and then grow, and when they get big, those two will split into four, and then we have 4 becoming 8, and very quickly on some large rocks you can have every single animal be a clone of the original anemone that settled there.
Binary fission, baby. Don't knock it till you try it.
Ooh, don't try it at home. No. That's a feature humans cannot do.
Yeah,
we
don't
do not have that adaptation.
Another animal we're starting to see are these mussels. This is a bivalve, meaning a two-shelled animal that you might be familiar with on a dinner plate. They go great with butter. But this is a creature with a hard shell and little byssal threads, which maybe we can take a look at. Notice how it's stuck to the rock here. And you can kind of see those little threads attached to the rock. That actually lets the mussel move around, not very fast, but it can, pick up and reattach those and do the mussel creep. And that's kind of a cool way that the mussel can move to places on the beach, but also stay attached to these rocks, because staying in place is a good adaptation when you're an animal in kind of a wave-swept area. It's nice to be able to hold on to your home. Also under this rock, I'm noticing the little green shore crabs. So you can see they are able to move, so they can actually walk to a place that's cooler and more meets their needs better, stay wet under the rock versus out in the hot sunshine. So a really important beach etiquette tip is to always put your rocks back how you found them. If you are exploring the intertidal zone, it's awesome to take a look under those rocks and see who's living there, but it's important to place that rock right back how you found it.
All right, I found something that I never want to find on a beach.
Dun, dun, dun.
I've got a piece of fishing line here, this monofilament with the hook still attached. And so we'll take this off the beach with us. This is really a nasty thing if you step on this. So, not that you should be barefoot at the beach, especially with barnacles like this, but this will make your day a whole lot worse. So we'll collect this. Up top at the kind of kiosk up there, that little weird pipe that you see on the end is actually a fishing line collection spot. So we will turn that in there. The trick is just not stabbing myself with it.
Yeah, and we actually have, super zoomed, a student, Dylan, who installed a fishing line station out at the harbor, near the Harbor Wild Watch office on Jersich Dock. So if you find fishing line there, take it out. Cool.
Anytime you find fishing line, unless you're in like a fishing store or it's in somebody's tackle box, you should throw it away because it does not belong in the environment. It doesn't really break down, and it's a really entanglement hazard for a lot of animals. Now, stuff like this drives me crazy.
Did you see it and think it was a new sea creature?
I'm so excited.
What is it, Rachel?
It's just a piece of, I think, juniper. This is a land terrestrial plant. Get out of here. I don't care about you. Oh, but here's something cool I do care about. That's for you. So right here, these, what look like grains of rice standing on end, are the egg casings of a snail called a dogwinkle. And we'll probably see, oh yeah, here's some more. Probably see the snails as we get a little bit lower, but they come into the intertidal zone to lay these eggs. So these ones are vacant. The little babies have already come out of there. Looks like some are in various stages of development, but it's a really, really cool snail that has evolved a very tough and sturdy shell. And that's kind of their main adaptation, is having a shell that's very, very strong with a thick foot that they use to crawl around, and they can kind of be protected that way. They're one of the shells that's used tons by hermit crabs, which is we're seeing some small
hermit crabs.
Some smaller hermit crabs here, just a few hundred of them. I don't think they know what the word hermit means.
Only one crab per one shell.
Okay, that's probably it. These crabs live alone, but they are colonial, so they're social. They hang out together. They are not good at distancing at all.
It turns out if I was going to be an intertidal creature, I think I'd want to be in this hermit crab party.
It does look like a pretty good time. There's a lot of coming and going on here. They're moving and shaking.
But I am surprised that in just like seeing all these eggs, which they are pretty mature, and as Rachel mentioned, some of them are hatched out. So I guess it's not as surprising not to see the frilled dogwinkle hanging around.
No,
but usually we see a nice
see
cluster of adults.
And they may be more in the rocky columns.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye out.
better spot to hide. So we'll tuck those eggs back.
Also noticing some of this red algae. Kind of, this one's cool because it starts as kind of this encrusting tar spot algae, and then it has the leafy phase of its life. And so that gives us a clue that we're getting to an area on the beach that is wetter for a longer period of time. And then as we take a few more steps down the slope, we notice this nice band of green seaweed. And this sea lettuce is the clue that we're entering the middle intertidal zone. And in the middle intertidal zone, we're going to see a lot of the same creatures that we saw further up the beach, but we'll introduce some more soft-bodied animals that, again, can't spend too much time out of the water, but can still spend a decent amount of time out of the water, which is pretty cool. All right. Hey, Dogwinkle.
Well, the lone sentinel guarding the eggs, I guess. Although, what's he going to do if somebody comes to try to eat these? He's a snail after all, or she's a snail. They are suction cupped down. They use a sticky foot to create a suction power with their muscle, and they kind of creep along slowly, similar to other snails.
Yeah. Another mid-intertidal animal, the lovely tube worm here.
I'm going to say we're about to
Yeah,
right
once you see
town.
one, yeah, can we just kind of look out and see all those little, it looks like straws or sticks sticking out of the mud? Those are all tube worms. And these are the little, what I like to call banded tube worms, because it looks like they have little bands on that home. The worm is hiding inside that tube, waiting for the tide to come back in. But that's a pretty cool adaptation to be able to build your own home that serves as protection when the tide is low, and then something you can hide in when the tide is high and you're eating things and you might need to dodge a predator or two. But yeah, tube worms everywhere.
Changed habitats now. There's much less rock, and now we're into almost entirely sand with a little bit of shell debris, broken bits of barnacles, and maybe clam shells in here too. But this is soft substrate, which means most of the animals that are in this place are going to be under the surface, because that's a really safe way to stay cool and moist during the hot low tide, where these are all cold-blooded creatures. They want to be the temperature of the water, but they can warm up pretty significantly on a low tide.
All right, here's one more species of tube worm. This is called the spaghetti tube worm. So like the banded tube worms, it also has a shell, but it builds its shell out of the debris that Rachel is mentioning. So the barnacle pieces, clam shells, whatever it can find on the beach. And then there's a worm living in that tube, buried in this mud. So when it sticks its tentacles out, they are long and white and really do look a lot like spaghetti. So hence its common name. Pretty neat. Finding anything cool down there, Rachel? Yeah, we're getting into that. Oh yeah.
So what I've got here is a live graceful crab, a little juvenile, pretty small. They get confused with Dungeness crab quite frequently, but Dungeness crab won't be found intertidally. They like it deeper than we have here. But then we also have the molt of one of these graceful crabs. So the crab
How do we know that this molt isn't the molt from the live crab you have in your hand?
Because they get bigger after they molt. So they molt in order to grow. So crabs have amazing adaptations for avoiding predators, things like sharp pinchers and a nice hard shell, and lots of walking legs and the ability to move very, very quickly to the side, left or right. They can also bury down into the sand. They kind of do this little wiggle move.
I feel like I was too zoomed in. Yeah, can you do the wiggle move again? Yeah, a little.
Wiggle, and then they use their pinchers and they kind of get down with it. And then they have all their sensory organs are right up at the top. Their eyes and their antenna are right at that front edge. So they can be basically totally covered, just their little eyeballs poking out. And that's a good adaptation to avoid predators, but it comes at a cost. They're not able to grow freely like a lot of other softer bodied animals are, and they have to shed their skin. And so what'll happen is right along this back seam here, they produce an enzyme that opens and kind of unzips the shell, and then the entire animal from the tips of their toes to those eyeballs and antennas is going to pull out, much like a hand coming out of a glove, and all the pieces come out, and they'll be soft for a couple of days until their shell hardens. They're pulling calcium carbonate from the water around them, and then they have a nice hard protective shell until the next time they run out of room inside there. Pretty neat to see. And this little friend is just scurrying around right here at the edge.
Demonstrating that sideways crab walk.
Yeah, super fast.
Finding a little tuft of algae to maybe hang
Where
out
can I
in.
hide? And if you look out, Stina, there's a bunch.
Oh, yeah.
I can easily see 8 crabs from here. Oh, but I do see one of my favorite creatures ever. I'm gonna try to catch it before it does what it does.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a shrimp called a Krangen shrimp.
Woo!
Can you see him okay? He's still camouflaging very well.
Yeah. Sometimes called a sand shrimp. Really long antennas there.
Yeah, really long. And that's because they spend a lot of their time buried as well. You can see their little modified legs in the back are called swimmerettes. Whoop, whoop, whoop. All right.
Great for swimmering right away.
That's right there. And the crab's like, hey, hey, hey. Sorry, Krabby.
It's kind of a glare, but you maybe just saw that shrimp bury itself into the sand. It was.
Oh, here's a bunch more. Look.
Yeah, I'm gonna move my body
I'm
so I
give you
can.
my polarized sunglasses. I have a polarized filter, but I broke it. So, what do you?
Okay, sorry. Please hold while I adjust. Put your sunglasses on. Yep. Okay, great.
So it might be a little easier to see. I do spy not a dogwinkle, but an animal occupying the dogwinkle shell. This is a black-eyed hermit crab. Come on out, little friend.
Has some nice barnacles adorning its
right here.
nice home. The latest in hermit crab landscaping.
So hermit crabs, they don't like to be upside down. So if you tilt them upside down, they're quite often will come out and say like, "Hey, no, flip me over."
Trying to flip back over.
But just such a cool species to encounter, and they can be quite fast. And they have the adaptation of a soft abdomen at the back that can curl around and using muscles can hold on to.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, time out. There's the most adorable little fish. Should I try to catch it?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't immediately recognize.
It's got really
Big
pectoral fins.
Hey there, little friend. Alright, you're coming with the sand. Oh, it looks like a poacher. It's got
Totally does have some poacher
spiky.
vibes. Oh my gosh.
What a cool fish. Big pectoral fins, a tiny dorsal fin way at the back
Are you
of
sure
its
it's
body.
not an intertidal dragon?
Oh my gosh, I think it is an intertidal dragon. Look at you, friend. You are so cute.
Do you want to stand up?
Yeah, thank you. Depends on how waterproof my hands are.
Ooh, sorry. We're super zoomed friends. And don't go to the crack of her hand. Yeah, so something that's important when handling fish is to keep them wet. Definitely handling them with wet hands, or this technique, the pool of water in a hand. They do have a slimy coat on their body that our hands can remove, and that removes their protection. So, important to be very careful when handling fish.
What an awesome little fishy friend.
Yeah.
Oh, there's another one. Right there by that mussel shell.
Fish
down
party.
there. Crazy.
Doo-doo-doo. Cute! Oh my gosh. We'll have to do a little investigating to figure out what exactly this fish is. It's kind of hard when they're itty bitty like this, but yeah, fun. A fun find. You never know what you're gonna see when you go out and explore the beach. I'm Also seeing some hermit crabs here. Rachel is talking about that soft abdomen that can curl around and hold on to the fit into the spiral shell of a vacant snail shell. And then they'll use that snail shell as their own home. And as that hermit crab grows, they're going to need to switch to bigger snail shells. So again, leaving those shells on the beach is an important way you can help protect our marine creatures here. Just getting some good pictures of our little fishy friend.
I can see little barbels on the underside of the jaw.
Nice.
If I'm remembering my ichthyology class.
Is a poacher.
Characteristics of
There's another fish in this kind of near shore area. It's very elongate, snake-like, eel-like, hiding in the seaweed. Let's see if I can catch a glimpse of it again. You might have seen it swimming by. Some type of gunnel species. Where'd it go? Clearly they're good at hiding. Possibly even burying in the sand a little bit. Don't see it. Well, yeah, but we're definitely in the lower zone of the intertidal area.
Sorry.
Matt is asking if intertidal dragon is a type of sculpin. According to our made-up common names, yes, we're officially patenting that.
Common names are such an issue because anyone can name anything, and if it's popular enough, it'll catch on, and you guys will be saying, "Oh, look, that's the intertidal dragon." And then somebody from somewhere else will be like,
"What are you talking about?"
Humans have agreed upon globally to use the binomial nomenclature, a system of rules established by Carl Linnaeus, the two-name system, where we have a genus, which is always capitalized, and a species, which is always not capitalized, and those two together are italicized to make the name of an animal. So I don't know.
I can't say yet. The name of a poacher off the top of my head. Is it Krangen?
No, I do love animals that are named that. Which, speaking of, mola mola is the ocean sunfish. It's one of the coolest fish. And
the world's largest bony fish. And if you want to learn more, tune in to our May Cocktails and Fish Tales. It's like May Mola Mola Madness. We're going to have Liz Scottman, the regional manager for the for the Surfrider. The Washington regional manager for Surfrider, who's also a huge fish nerd. She's going to come delight us with all sorts of fun facts and trivia and just great information about the ocean sunfish. And so, you can tune into that on the third Wednesday of the month. We'll be hosting that in the evening at 6 p.m. So that I'm looking forward to that presentation a lot.
It's gonna be great. Here's another hermit crab. This is a different species. This is, I think, the granny hand hermit, or maybe it's a bearing hermit. Shoot, I'm bad.
Does it have red antennas?
It does have
red
orange antennas.
Its little
joints
on its legs.
Yeah, kind of.
Turns out there's a lot of hermit crabs.
There's a lot.
Get the
and almost all of them use the same species of snail shell. So this is another dogwinkle shell. So hopefully all those little baby eggs that we saw before are all gonna grow up to be snails that then the hermit crabs can utilize. Good beach etiquette is to leave everything on the beach unless it's trash, so that you're not removing habitat. And even broken shells that won't really be used for like a home explicitly like this can be the raw materials that other shelled animals need to create their shells. And so leaving shells on the beach is important. Also, for a lot of animals that reproduce by broadcast spawning, those little larvae are going to be looking to settle on the right habitat, and shells can be one of those things. So if you're a little baby larval oyster or a barnacle, knowing that you're landing on an animal that has a calcium carbonate shell like you have can often be an indicator that, this is a good choice of a place to survive. If this animal did it, you probably can do it too. Not that they're actually thinking that. That's a little anthropomorphism, I suppose. But still cool to imagine little baby larval plankton.
Yeah, so today we kind of went from the top of the beach, the high intertidal zone, to the mid. Now we're in the low intertidal zone, and again, we're just kind of talking about adaptations that these different animals used to survive. And I'm thinking Rachel found a very nice clam species here.
It doesn't look like much at all, but this is the siphon of a clam. So clams are in the mollusk group, which includes the snails. It also has the cephalopods, the bivalves that Stina mentioned earlier, the mussels and oysters. But clams generally bury down underneath the ground. They have two shells that house their organs, and then they have a big muscular foot that digs through the substrate. And then to breathe and feed, they stretch out this kind of neck or siphon, and one side will pull water in and one side will squirt water out. And during low tide, when they're not really doing much, but they still need to take in oxygen, quite often you'll see the clams just kind of squirting randomly. Now, sometimes they're squirting because people walked nearby to them. Sometimes they're squirting because they need to poop. You can see that. Other times they're squirting to get rid of the water that they've already taken the oxygen from and get new, fresh, oxygenated water. So lots of reasons for them to squirt. Also, occasionally, because they're touched. No, he's like, no, we're just gonna go down. I'm not very threatening, I guess.
Nice. And that clam, its siphon was closed up a lot. It's nice when they're open a little bit. You can actually identify clams based on kind of how that siphon is arranged. Sometimes there's little tabs. I like to think of the gooey duck as the double barrel shotgun with the smooth white margins. But based on the shells on the beach, we might have things like this heart cockle. This is the potato chip. I like relating everything to potato chips here, Rachel. I think I have a thing for salty, crispy potatoes. But this heart cockle shell would have another kind of identical half, and you can kind of see the heart shape it might make if you had the other side still attached. But again, this is habitat for other animals, so we see the little dove snails attached there, some barnacles. So heart cockles are one clam we'd probably, based on this shell, would see at this beach. Also, this nice butter clam shell, based on this nice dark hinge and the concentric lines, no radial lines, whereas the heart cockle has those radial, really deep grooves. This has that nice chalky white color, of course with some growth going on, so that kind of scuzzy diatom. Even kind of looks like some old egg casing encrusting stuff here. Oh, there you go. We have a dove snail waving at you all, saying hello and happy Wednesday. Really, I think it's trying to rewrite itself, so it kind of got flipped over, so we can give it a little assist there. But I like to think of the dove snails as the Miss America of the Salish Sea. They have a very good wave. So there's some potential types of clams we might find on this beach. Here's one more. Another clam species. This is a type of manila clam. Can't quite, trying to remember if it's the native or the Japanese species, but nice little, another evidence of clam life here at Joemma State Park. Oh yeah, another cool creature you can find when you're in the lower zone. Again, this area of the beach is only exposed on really low tides. Nice. And this is a lovely plumose anemone.
A huge plumose
Huge
anemone.
plumose anemone.
Some hands for scale.
Perfect.
This is the longest anemone species. They're called Metridium farcimen or Metridium senili, which is spelled like senile, so I don't know who named that. Maybe some senile old person. But no, this is a really, really cool animal that really can only survive in these lowest tidal heights, either in the subtidal or the lowest intertidal zone. And their body is just filled with water. They're supported by the water, and when the tide leaves them, they look sad. We always say gravity is cruel to the soft-bodied animals of the intertidal zone. But this animal, once the tide comes back in, is gonna stretch. And right now it's kind of really turgid and balled up, but it might be almost 3 feet long when the water is supporting it fully.
Yeah, and you can kind of see it has some of those feeding branches out.
Hold still.
Yeah, thanks. See the water's moving. But those feeding branches have the nematocysts that they can catch. This is a plankton
Eater. And if I touch this animal, it doesn't even really register to my hands that I'm touching this sticky creature, because it's eating plankton that are so abundant, it doesn't really have to paralyze and trap things like those aggregating anemones were. So this is eating much smaller food sources. It's not going to eat like a crab. It's going to stick to smaller food items. So let's keep walking. Let's change habitats a little here.
I want to look at one more sad anemone on this rock.
Yeah.
You can see kind of these rocks are few and far between, but when you do see a rock, they get some life encrusting upon them.
There's an even sadder one there.
Yeah, that's I think the one that I had initially seen. You can see
Gravity!
Rachel's right. Gravity
Gravity's
is so cruel. But
always trying to bring me down.
got your tentacles in the water, so while this
all bad.
anemone is not totally looking the most delightful, I'm sure it's happy to be dipping its toes here.
Yeah, it's at least going to be a little bit moist.
Awesome. All right, which habitat would you like to shift gears to?
I want to head toward more of this rock.
Yes,
because rocks are heavy and they don't move. They don't tumble around when we get heavy wave action. So it can be a fairly stable place for animals to live. That stability provides a lot of
habitat for things like chitons.
Oh, look at that tiny one.
This is a 8-plated snail with kind of those articulating plates, letting it stick onto really any rock surface. It's got a nice suction cup foot that keeps it pretty well attached to this rock, which again is another nice adaptation, because I'm sure there's animals out here that would love a tasty snail treat. Again, more of those anemones. And here's some of my favorite seaweed. This is acid kelp, which makes sulfuric acid as a protective method to avoid predation from hungry seaweed eaters. I love that it has this nice central blade and then almost these little like leaves off the edges. So you can see it's even kind of bleaching out a little bit. Yesterday we were at the Fox Island boat launch and there was some stressed out acid kelp that just totally bleached out everything next to it, which was pretty wild to see.
I've got a cool video I'm going to post about that later.
Nice.
TikTok, but check out what I found here.
Ooh.
So both Stita and myself, we really love slugs, in particular sea slugs. These are barnacle-eating nudibranchs.
And when you say these, I'm like, what?
Yeah, what? So I was going to point them out to you. So here's one. Here's another. Here, another, blah, 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 blah. And this is a breeding aggregation because these little, what look like kind of gooey doilies are the eggs of...
That wasn't much nicer. I was going to say hanging blobs of snot, but gooey doilies is much more...
They kind of spiral.
Yeah,
and they look
yeah.
like a little ribbon
Totally
of
appropriate.
gelatinous eggs. But these, their name is quite fitting. They are eating barnacles, which is something we're never in short supply of. But what the barnacle-eating nudibranch has to deal with is desiccation, the idea that they'll dry out if they're not in the water for very long. So they can really only eat barnacles that are living in the subtidal zone. You won't find these slugs higher up in the beach habitat because they just don't have a way to stop themselves from drying out. They have no shell like their other mollusk cousins.
Yeah, also a bunch of sea in it, so a lot of blobby creatures going on here. So from the eggs to the barnacle eating nudibranch to these anemones here, another metridium, the short species of metridiums. But looking good.
Lots of blobs.
Yeah, and again, the structure of the piling just offers a good location for all sorts of life to attach to, similar to the boulders that we see.
And check out, we've got a new species of barnacle up here.
Oh yeah.
Notice they're much, much larger than the other barnacles that we have. It's interesting to me that they're growing on this. This is a creosote covered piling, which is basically dipped in like tar, poisonous tar, to try to retard the growth of these different
Really, you can
encrusted
really
organisms,
see
but
the
it is.
juicy.
Yeah.
Not
Kind of
ideal.
smell it too.
Yeah.
Sunlight. But it's to stop the microbes from breaking it down. And things like shipworms from getting in and eating the worm or eating the wood. But it doesn't seem to stop the barnacles much.
Yeah, I think as people are building new docks, the steel pilings are the favored material. I was gonna say let's check that out. But also just look at the tidal exchange. So based on the barnacles on these pilings and Rachel, you can see that we yeah, so boom, boom, boom. We have some yeah.
But okay,
A lot of water change.
mucked it up here, but there is a little
A kelp crab party.
of these northern kelp crabs.
Oh, nice.
So we've got a nice female here. I can tell it's a female because she's got her eggs are even showing right in here. She doesn't want me to show you that. Sorry. Okay, we can kind of see them.
I'm already showing them.
Yeah, so she's gravid, which is how we say basically pregnant for animals that don't have a true pregnancy. Oh, this one's eating some of this soda straw algae.
That is very cute.
It's adorable. It's like just slurping it down.
Where's the cute milkshake at the end of your soda straw?
Right. Gonna share with your date. Adorable. So these are northern kelp crabs. They're mostly herbivores, especially in the summer months when we have lots and lots of algae. But they are scavengers as well, so they're kind of opportunists. They'll take advantage of whatever they find in their habitat and use their pinchers to break it into small pieces and then put it into their mouth.
You can imagine those pointy toes are really good at climbing up something like this piling. And so when the tide comes back in, they'll be able to crawl all the way up this piling, wherever that water lets them go. And then you can see that as the tide has gone lower, they've all kind of collected down to the base of this piling here.
And they're being quite crabby. They're not too keen, I think, on sharing this tiny bit of piling.
I wonder if there's that anemone that looks like it got knocked off, kind of that orange blob rolling around.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I bet that was done by crab toes.
Come on, guys.
And then we've got the other style of crab right here.
Yeah, a
little
little graceful
crab
crab
running by.
coming in. Also, you'll notice some of these kelp crabs can definitely take that kelp name to the next level and decorate themselves with some pretty fancy seaweed. Sorry about the glare. Work it. I've got a lot going on, buddy. We're here just in a tuft. Cool stuff. More of those barnacle eating sea slug eggs.
Another dozen kelp crabs over here.
Nice. Let's see. Yeah, how deep can we go in our boots? Do some zoom action. There's some more dangling anemones.
Yep. Big ol', see, this is what I would call a hanging snot ball.
Yeah, that is accurate. Delightful.
Totally hanging snot balls. Gravity, I'm sorry,
Tide's coming back, yeah. And this week we have a really just excellent, like almost senseless swing of low tides happening. There's a -4 in our future, so
This year is like awesome year.
an awesome year for low tides for sure. So we're excited to keep bringing you some digital beach walks as the summer goes on, and eventually we'll get back to in-person events when all is safe to do so. So really, yeah. I wonder, Rachel, are there more things we want to discuss adaptation-wise or Joemma beach-wise? All right. How about this big red rock crab? Rachel's going to demonstrate.
Don't try this.
If you had a red rock crab at home, I'd be impressed. But we have some impressive crab wrangling, so we're using the adaptations of this crab to our advantage. It has those big pinchers, but it is not flexible enough to reach behind it.
Like a bodybuilder who's got it. Trying to back.
Yeah.
They're too big, they can't reach back there. But they can reach everywhere in the middle. Hi, friend. You are an impressive sized crab. You can always tell a red rock crab because they have black pinchers and a generally kind of rusty red color overall. Kind of a brick color. This one's got a little bit of kelp growing on its antenna in the front here, which is interesting.
Fabulous, darling.
And I can tell that this one is a male who's been in the shell for quite some time. There is one, he's just kind of scuzzy looking all over. Sorry, friend, it's true. So which is a lot of growth and encrusting organisms. There's even, a barnacle and a handful of barnacles. There's actually a bunch. This is all baby barnacles who have just settled, hoping to find an appropriate place to grow. And they'll stay on this shell, growing, living until the crab molts. So when this crab needs to shed this outer armor in order to get, oh, I gotta come in. The tide's coming in.
Go gently, gently.
Just went over my boots. Okay,
We get distracted by this excellent sea life here.
Yeah. It would not be the first time that I got flooded my boots because I was not paying attention to the Sorry, it's the life I live. It's fine.
It's a good life. I'm not mad.
This crab has been in the shell for a while. Hopefully this year maybe he'll molt and be able to regrow a bigger and nice clean shell that helps them not to waste energy with carrying heavy hitchhikers around. But this is a cool spot, cool intertidal animal to see. And they're quite crabby. He's like, don't mess with me.
Yeah, I love when we walked up to the kind of beach entrance, there's a really nice kind of COVID sign to remind people to keep their social distance. And if a red rock crab is on average about 6 inches across, you want to stay about 12 red rock crabs away from your friends. So thanks, red rock crab, for helping us stay safe.
Pinchers out is 1 foot, So.
There you go. Yeah. Six crabby crabs. Okay.
6 mad crabs. There we go. I love it. All right, crabby friend, we'll put you right back. We'll let you go. How about your day?
Scuttle.
I'm out of here.
Oh yeah, go into that nice shadow so we can actually see you. Perfect. And it's into the glare. All right. Again, it's just a beautiful day. You can see the mountains out there. This is just a treat of a beach to be out on this nice glassy, calm day.
It's very quiet. We're almost the only people here.
Yeah.
Which is wild for such a beautiful low tide, but I guess work, school.
Yeah.
People have things to do. So thanks for all of you who tuned in with us as we explored this habitat. We have some more awesome low tides, and we'll be, prepping some cool Instagram posts and putting some of these videos over on YouTube as well. So thanks to everybody who has liked and commented and shared and put all that love to us in the social media realm. We do appreciate it, and we do read all of your messages and comments. So thank you to everyone for that. If you do want to support Harbor Wild Watch in a financial way, you can make a donation on our website or even through our Facebook page as well. So thanks to those of you who have donated to us throughout this year. It helps us to be able to fund these really fun, amazing intertidal educational encounters. That's a mouthful.
That is a mouthful. And if you really want to I don't know. We have the Give Big fundraiser happening next week on Tuesday. So if you want to save your donations till then,
we do have,
we'll have
some pretty cool match
things.
abilities. So check your emails if you subscribe to our newsletter. We'll have information about that coming out soon.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to flip it around and we'll wave you off. Everybody, learn,
Have fun!